So Donald Trump went on Fox News last night for a wide-ranging interview, and it didn't really go the way he thought it was. I mean, Fox is a network that is practically built around flattering him, and even they couldn't hide how ridiculous he sounded throughout this entire interview. The tone of the interview from Laura Ingraham was pure skepticism. You could tell at certain points she was thinking to herself, what is he talking about? So let's break this down clip by clip because it was one of those things where you're watching this interview and there's almost too much craziness to pull from. I want to start kind of a little broader where she asks Trump, why are Americans feeling so uneasy about the economy? And this is what he had to say in response.
But even with interest rates up, the economy is the strongest it's ever been. You know, you asked me, just to go back to the beginning of your question, you talked about prices. We're down on energy. We're down on interest rate. You know, interest rates are down despite the Fed. Now, if we had a normal person at the Fed would have really low interest rates, and we will soon have that. We'll have somebody that's.
Then why are people saying they're anxious about the economy? Why are they saying that?
I don't know that they are saying. I think polls are fake. We have the greatest economy we've ever had. We will have over $20 trillion come into our economy, and it's largely because of my election, but it's also largely because of tariffs.
First of all, we've already talked about the fact that this $20 trillion to the economy thing is bullshit. Nobody knows where number is coming from at all. It keeps increasing, and he can't actually provide any detail around that, what that means. But I also just think it is stunning that, of course, when someone confronts him with this, his response is the polls are fake and the economy's never been better. And he's talking about things like interest rates, as opposed to the fact that Americans are struggling with high grocery bills and high rent and high healthcare costs, while he's out at Mar-a-Lago eating stone crab and lobster and, throwing Great Gatsby parties. This man is so far away from the struggle of everyday Americans that in his head, the only thing could be the fact, that interest rates are coming down and that makes it an automatically good economy for everybody. It doesn't. And at the end of the day, too, he has never paid a utility or a grocery bill in his life. Of course, he thinks the economy is fine. And he's also surrounded by sycophants who tell him what he wants to hear and tell him everything is great. So when someone pops that bubble, he refuses to believe it. And the next thing, and I think this is, kind of goes along with this, is she asked him about this absurd idea he has around creating 50-year mortgages for Americans, which is a colossally stupid idea. But I want to play, it's a little bit of a longer clip, but I want to play how he thought, how he views these 50-year mortgages. Let's take a look.
Housing costs are still out of reach. And another thing that your administration is trying to tackle, many Americans, the average age of first-time home buyers are now up to age 40, which is sad. The country you and I grew up in.
I inherited that. Look, you have to understand.
Right, but let me get to the question, though, because your housing director has proposed something that has enraged your MAGA friends, which is this 50-year mortgage idea. So a significant MAGA backlash, calling it a giveaway to the banks and simply prolonging the time it would take for Americans to own a home outright. Is that really a good idea?
It's not even a big deal. I mean, you go from 40 to 50 years, and what it means is you pay something less from 30. That some people had a 40, and then now they have a 50. All it means is you pay less per month. You pay it over a longer period of time. It's not like a big factor.
Well, I'm glad it's not a big deal for him. Of all the ideas Trump has come up with, this might be one of the most out of touch. And let's just look at simple numbers for this. If you have a 5% home at a 5% rate, the difference in interest you pay in a 30 versus a 50-year mortgage is $400,000. So you are paying $400,000 more for a $500,000 home, and you are adding 20 years of payment stress onto your life. And I know for Trump, $400,000 is pocket change and doesn't matter. For the average American, that is a huge chunk of their lifetime savings. But this is what happens when a billionaire who's gone through several bankruptcies and has never balanced a checkbook in his life thinks he's an economic genius. He just wants the credit for hollow short-term relief that is fleeting, that gives the veneer of a strong economy without actually doing the work to solve the economic foundational issues that so many Americans have and are struggling with. And it shows in this ridiculous mortgage idea. He also talked about the end of the shutdown, and he's floated this crazy idea of giving bonuses to the air traffic controllers who didn't show up, or who did show up to work throughout the shutdown. He was asked by Ingram how he's actually going to pay for something like that, and I will show you how he responded.
Did is say the ones that stayed, of which there were a lot of them, I'm sending them a $10,000 bonus.
Where's that money coming from?
I don't know. I'll get it from someplace. I always get the money from someplace regardless. It doesn't matter. I do a lot of bonuses for people because it's really something that, it's like the American way when you think about it.
Like, this is one of those things where if Biden had done this, Republicans in Congress would be freaking out about it, because this is how Trump thinks the government works. He just thinks he can willy-nilly write checks to things while completely ignoring the fact that Congress controls the power of the purse. If he wants to do this, that's where he has to find the money. But he just thinks he's going to bulldoze them and write millions of dollars worth of bonus checks without any sort of check on that power. And look, at the end of the day, I'm sure we are all deeply appreciative of the air traffic controllers who continued to show up during the shutdown. That's not what this is about. I know we are all thankful for that, but it is about Trump making empty promises that people rely on that he doesn't actually back up. And this is going to be another one of them. Now, I want to finish with a clip that I think was one of the weirder parts of the interview, where Trump was talking about wanting to bring more, Chinese workers into the country. And Ingram, given her and Fox's skepticism around all things immigration, didn't seem to be buying it. So let's play the clip of that exchange between the two of them talking about this.
Historically, black colleges and universities would all be out of business. You would have a system of colleges and universities.
So we're dependent on China to keep our university system going?
But I think it's good to have, I actually think it's good to have outside countries. Look, I want to be able to get along with the world.
They're not the French. They're the Chinese. They spy on us. They steal our intellectual property.
What, do you think the French are better?
Yeah.
I mean, really? I don't know. I'll tell you, I'm not so sure. We've had a lot of problems with the French, where we get taxed very unfairly on our technology, where, they put 25% taxes on American products.
Now, look, I think what was fascinating about this whole interview is that it didn't air on CNN or NBC. It was a Fox News interview. This is supposed to be a safe space for Trump to say whatever crazy stuff he wants to say without any pushback whatsoever. But we actually surprisingly saw from Laura Ingraham, might have been minor, but it was still pushback against him, and her barely keeping a straight face and viewing what he was saying is ridiculous. And that is a bad sign for Trump. His policies are failing. His approval rating is in the tank. And now his favorite news outlets are distancing themselves or confronting him a little more on the ridiculous things he says, because his brand is turning toxic. So even with a lot of people being disappointed about how this shutdown ended and what happened with Democrats ending this shutdown, and this question around, well, is this going to give Trump his momentum back? I would say the answer is firmly no, because he is clearly so far gone and detached from reality that I don't think that needs to be a concern. Every time he opens his mouth, he reminds Americans how deeply unserious and unstable and uninterested in helping them, compared to anybody else. And so, yeah, I think if you're wondering if this media bubble around Trump is going to stay forever, I think this interview is your answer. And I hope that this administration keeps putting him on TV, because every time he goes on, it is just another reminder to Americans of how far gone he is. That is it for me today. If you liked what you saw in this video, throw a like on it. Follow the Dem Wins Media YouTube channel. Follow me at buildingthebench.substack.com. I have an interview out today with Congressman George Whitesides from California. It's a great interview. He talks about, bipartisanship and trying to get stuff done. So go take a look at that and tune back in tomorrow. We will keep bringing you the news as you need to see it. Thanks for watching.